Welcome to the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sarraille. I've got two guests today, Ed Clay and Scott Nelson. Just right off the bat, how many times have your names been mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast? Have you guys actually done a count?
I don't know. I never have done a count, but someone just sent me one that I've never even heard myself. Randomly, somebody on Instagram hit me up. I met them at the last UFC, whatever, said hi. And then he was like, oh, did you know that Joe Rogan talked about you with Eddie Bravo and Gary Tonin? And I was like, no, what episode is that? So he sent me the link, and I missed that one like 3 years ago.
You guys haven't been on his podcast yet.
No.
That's got to change because I went. There's a number of clips where he talks about what you guys were doing, especially Eddie Bravo and both of you. So I'm excited today because one of the things I never opened my aperture to is alternative medicine. And recently, about a year ago, came down and did the ibogaine treatment in Mexico, as well as 5-MeO-DMT, which was just absolutely spiritual from a trauma perspective. But what you guys are doing is amazing. I want to get into the backstory, but I mean, everyone knows what stem cells are. I don't think they totally understand how they're an alternative form of medicine and how they're providing longevity to people's careers. So I really want to dive into that. But before we do that, I want to get into both your backgrounds. Ed, we'll start with you. Just, where you came from, what led you to this sort of arena.
Yeah. So, I started training mixed martial arts when I was young. I started wrestling when I was 11, boxing when I was 13, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 15, Muay Thai 18, and opened my mixed martial arts school when I was 20. Ended up being one of the largest in the country, close to 1,000 students. Started Gameness, which was the largest supplier of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu martial arts uniforms in the world for a while.
Yeah.
And built all that up and sold everything in 2011 and 2012. Also those two things specifically. And so my mom, actually, it's funny you mentioned ibogaine, because in 2008 I tore my LCL, PCL, and meniscus training fighters. And I had team doctors. They got me on opiates. And so for about 2 years I was went to stop one day and went through a withdrawal, and experienced that a number of times over the next 6 months. Wasn't able to stop. So I went to a therapist. I said, hey, I'm completely functional running my companies, but I'd rather have a clear brain and deal with the pain than a foggy brain and no pain. And he said, America is behind the times when it comes to opiate withdrawal. Google ibogaine. And so I Googled it, and I was like, I was skeptical. It supposedly stopped all opiate withdrawals, and one of the strongest, psychedelics in the world. And then I watched a couple documentaries. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. So I took a plane to Mexico City, took a bus 2 hours south, did ibogaine in somebody's bedroom. I was home 72 hours later, never had withdrawal, never had a craving. And I thought to myself, wow, if this can work so well and is not legal in America, not available, what else is out there? My mom, who you met, she has a rare form of rheumatoid arthritis. So much, she got multiple staph infections from the side effects of the medications, broke her back on a short fall, got tuberculosis because of the side effects of the medications. And so we were in a big search for her, kind of making a longer story short. It was a treatment called Coley's toxins for rheumatoid arthritis that I had read a study about in 1923. And there was no hospital that had it except this one hospital in Tijuana, Mexico, that had closed down a year or two before. And so Scott Dedrick and I basically found the owner, bought the hospital from him, hired back some of the original staff. My mom came in a wheelchair, first patient, second patient, came in a wheelchair, left 3 weeks later walking, and has been in remission now for 7 years. So ibogaine was the catalyst of all of that, and we actually did ibogaine in this hospital as the first licensed hospital to do it too, because we wanted it in a licensed facility.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you did it in somebody's bedroom.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, was it just sort of very? That doesn't sound like it's the best setting to do ibogaine.
It was a special place. It's called Tepoztlan, Mexico. It's a little mountain town, about 2.5 hours south of Mexico City, and it was a great setting, actually. Very peaceful, very spiritual, And I remember as I was going through it, there were fireworks going on all night in this neighborhood. And I thought the freaking Mexican army was coming in or something. I was tripping, basically. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized they assured me that that was not happening. But that was probably like the weirdest thing that happened during that experience.
Did you ever do it again?
2 other times, yes.
2 other times?
Yes.
I've heard, I was just talking to a SEAL buddy who's down to it twice. He said the second time was amazing. It was almost like he had a guide and he was asking him questions. They were guiding him through this sort of wormhole and answering the questions. Did you feel like you could control it a lot more on the second time?
You know, the first time I had that guide,
no
more
kidding.
so than the second time for me. And I was asking some very specific questions. I learned a lot about myself. I had big fears of my parents dying that I didn't really know about, and I wasn't experiencing with them dying, without them knowing how much I loved them, they meant to me. And that was like a big conversation that I was having, and it was very emotional. But it was like also a release when it was over, because I was carrying around a number of different things from growing up, as we do in life, and really kind of getting in touch with those things and letting them go. Call my mom and dad, crying like, hey, in case you didn't know, you mean the world to me, and that was. It was an amazing experience.
Well, I consider myself lucky that I was with Mom and Pop Clay.
That's awesome.
I didn't know until this morning.
Okay.
And they're like, yeah, we didn't want to overly announce it. Good people. Yeah. So you guys have known each other a pretty long time then. So the hospital you bought was Chipsa.
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it was Chipsa.
So you guys tracked down the previous owner. The building still existed, a lot of the equipment, and you basically bought it from the previous owner and stood back up.
Yeah, so we were looking for a way as well to do a licensed hospital to where we could do ibogaine as well. So that it kind of all fell into place. It was like so many things were, you call them coincidences, but they all kind of came into place. We had known about this one place, and we had been kind of looking, but we kind of stumbled upon it as well. So it was an interesting way it all happened. Scotty actually got me involved in a leadership program. And it was part of my 100-day, we call it PSP, personal strategic plan, to achieve these goals. And I mean, we were just, we're grinders. So we just put a plan together, focused, did my meditations every morning, and,
grinded it out,
made it happen.
So, first off, we got to come back to that leadership thing, because that is my passion. But Scott, what's your backstory, man?
Oh man, where to start? I've been involved in Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the fight world since 95. I have the oldest running onthemat.com website. Don't do too much with it anymore, but pre-YouTube and stuff, we were the spot. And started out marketing VHS tapes. Actually, I put a few fights up on the internet. It was pre high speed internet. You had to have them and download it overnight. And then I got an email from someone who's like, "I'll pay you $40 to put those fights on a VHS tape and send it to me." I'm like, okay, and that kind of just sprawled into I started first with the videos, then with the apparel, with the gear. Ed was already manufacturing gameness in Pakistan. I ended up having a crazy trip. I went to Pakistan to make jiu-jitsu gis. Thought I was going to get kidnapped one night, all kinds of fun stuff like that. And then that turned into a chain of retail stores. Had 13 stores at one time, and kind of like Ed and I have been besties forever. And when he was doing this project, I actually went down to Tempa Salon too, which is an amazing spot to do ibogaine down there when he was doing that down there. And then getting involved with this, it's kind of a no-brainer. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I first got started. Didn't really know anything about cancer treatment, alternative cancer treatment, autoimmune, any of these things. But I always loved jiu-jitsu because if I could drag somebody to the mat and they trained long enough, it didn't matter what was going on in their life, right? If they're angry, sad, not confident, whatever it is, need to be humbled, diet problems, overweight, the mat fixes everything, right? You get a brotherhood of friends and people around you. You get in shape, you get confidence, you learn how to create strategies, all of these things that are really good. And I love that it changed people's life. That's really why I pushed and was involved in martial arts. And then, you know, when it came down here and you start meeting patients who the medical system has given up on them.
Yes.
And so, you know, we're fighters, and we always look at this as a chance. Like, let's build somewhere where people can fight. If you really want to live, we want to be your team. We want to be your coaches, and we want to give you that spot where you could fight. And I'll never forget the first cancer patient that came back down here, and you know, she came in a wheelchair full of edema and lots of pain. She was allergic to chemotherapy, so the doctors gave up on her. And she was here about 3-4 weeks. You know, left walking, had her life back, got to go home to her 3 kids and her husband. No, not cancer-free that quick, but like on the path. You know what I mean? It's rare for someone to become completely cancer-free in just 3 weeks, because the people that come here are terminal, right? They're usually at the worst possible spot. So it's a process for everybody to get to that what we call durable remission. But she was, you know, told she had a month to live. She was told to go here, take a bunch of pain pills, go home and get your affairs in together, call hospice, and you know, to get that chance to go back and be with her family and her kids and stuff is like, hey, you know, there's something going on here, you know what I mean? And it's been
that's got to impact you guys pretty substantially.
Yeah. Well,
it's
the highs. The highs are the really, really high, and you know, it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
We're always doing the best we can to make it work better for every person that we can. But you know, this is stage 4 terminal cancer. You know, nobody has a great solution, right?
So first off, I got to say, most people listen to this podcast. They don't watch it on YouTube. So if you look at Ed and Scott, they've got cauliflower ears. I can't stress enough, guys. I always tell people, if you're in a bar and you're about to get in a fight and the person has cauliflower ears, consider this a public service announcement. Walk the other direction unless you're a really good boxer. It's a joke. But so it's interesting. I mean, you guys are fighters. You're also, it sounds like, serial entrepreneurs, but really within, you know, the fight industry, either, you know, commercial goods, skis, you know, sort of e-commerce and the videos for On the Mat. That seems like one hell of a leap from what you guys were doing to you know, buying Chipsa. I mean, was it solely for your mom at that point?
It was a mix between that and ibogaine. You know, it was and it didn't seem at the time. It didn't seem like a leap when we were actually looking to raise money, and people were telling us no. I was like, what is? They don't see the vision, you know. Now looking back, it was a leap, but I'm kind of glad because, you know, if you think about the early days of the UFC, I like to use this analogy. You know, Hoist Gracie, I always wanted to know what style of martial arts was the best martial arts.
Yes.
You know, was it kung fu, karate? And the UFC came out. I was like, oh, we finally get to see this. And it was this Brazilian guy that came in and choked everybody out. I'm like, what in the world? He's like, oh, it's jiu-jitsu. And then, you know, the wrestlers came in. They learned how to defend the submissions. And then the kickboxers learned how to defend the takedowns. They're knocking out the wrestlers. And then it evolved into this MMA that we know today. And so when we went into this, it was like where we were at, what works and what doesn't work. I believed in Coley's toxins. I had read the research and the data. There wasn't a lot of research on Gerson therapy, which we don't do to that extent anymore, but there wasn't a lot of research on it. But I still had these anecdotal cases. And like this, I believe this is working for some people. And so when we started doing it, you know, we got to see what worked and what didn't work. And we would have people that were sent home to die, and we would extend their life. You know, rarely are they, you know, like a stage 4 terminal cancer patient with a month to live, are they going to be living, you know, 2 years, 3 years? But you know, if you're able to extend somebody's life by 6 months, a year, you know, that's a win. Like, you know, and so we started seeing that. But you know, you have the alternative side and the conventional side, and the conventional side likes to throw giant stones at the alternative side. The alternative side throw giant stones at the conventional side. Neither side has a great answer for terminal cancer, and the egos get in the way. And it's like, I'd rather build bridges than walls. Like, how do we work together? And so we started emailing different scientists on papers that we would read. And because nobody really talks about their papers. I don't think many people read these papers. And so it's like, oh, hey, you're doing this immunotherapy. How's this working? Here's what we're working on, et cetera. And, what works and what doesn't work. So we started bringing in clinical trials from the United States. And one of the companies we were working with, a company called Batu Biologics at the time, they had a Nobel Prize winner on their board. They had a guy named Francisco Marincola, who's the former chief of infectious disease and immunogenetics for the National Institute of Health. They had Vijay Mahant, one of the top geneticists. And, started building relationships with a lot of these guys, and they came down to Chipsa and they're like, whoa, this is really cool. You're doing translational medicine. And Franco is also the founder and editor-in-chief of the Journal of Translational Medicine. And so just started evolving, and it's been an evolution to always get better. And now we're at a state where we have a CGMP lab. We're making our own cellular therapeutics. 2023 is going to be, I think, a breakthrough year for us, because we're going to be moving a lot into a clinical trial model for most things, not the joints and stuff, but clinical trial model for the induced pluripotent stem cells we're working on, which is going to be a big deal. And we're going to try to get some of these therapeutics through the FDA process. That's the big goal.
So do you guys see yourselves more as coalition builders between the conventional and alternative medicine, rather than banking on one particular sort of modality?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. How do you build bridges and, keep the ego out? And, a lot of times we're working on the same things.
That's interesting coming from a bunch of fighters, where usually, you think...
I don't know.
Like
if you want to be a good fighter, you got to have an open mind. And you got to be open to coaching. And, if you're going to fight, I always say, if you're going to fight a karate guy, you better have the best karate guy training you and the best anti-karate guy. Well, we got homeopaths and we got oncologists. You know what I mean? Like, it's about as opposite as you get.
No, that's right. The you said something earlier that somebody said that America's behind the times with a lot of these alternative modalities and whatnot. Is that just part of the for a layman who doesn't know much about the medical world? Is that just legalities, regulations, restrictions? Let's say an allergic reaction to some of the things that take place in other countries like Mexico?
I think so. I mean, we have very strict regulations. I think the FDA has actually done a good job the last 10 years. They've been opening up a lot. I mean, not getting into the whole COVID thing, but we saw though that if they wanted to get something through, they could get it through with those emergency use authorizations. And it's like, well, hey, if you can do it for this, why can't we do this for some cancer therapeutics or some other things? So, but they've been loosening up. They passed, Congress passed right to try in 2017 that has not been used since Trump left office. But, people kind of forgot about that legislation, but that is still there. That's still the law of the land in the United States. I think that opened a lot of things up. That says that any drug that's been through a phase 1, the patient can ask the pharmaceutical company for it, and the pharmaceutical company can give it to them. So, if they have a life-threatening disease. So a lot of those things, they're opening up, and I think it's getting better. But that's really what it is. The regulations are so tough. It takes 10 to 15 years to get, something through.
Passed.
So by the time you get that, Mexico might have had it for 10 or 15 years.
And I mean, Scott, we were talking about this earlier, the right to try. I mean, but that's if you have access to some of these drugs in the testing phase, which I can assume the average American doesn't have access to. Or that's probably
likely. It takes doctor getting a recommendation and making it happen,
And so the doctor has to be knowledgeable of what's in testing and what's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess patients can do their research and find stuff, but most of them probably, don't at that level. That's what our goal was when we were planning to move into the U.S. was to make that, available to people, make them more aware of what was available and what their options were, right? So,
do most of your patients find you guys, or is it a referral from their doctors?
I don't know that we get too many referrals from doctors. We get a lot of patient-to-patient referrals, tons
that makes sense.
of those. And yeah, people just, especially in the cancer world and also in the stem cell world, people, when they're not happy with what the quality of treatment that they're getting at home and they want to feel better, they turn to the internet and they go looking for new things.
So, guys, explain to me the Cellular Performance Institute. That's a subset under Chipsa, a department? Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yes. It's not exactly under Chipsa, but it's a separate
entity.
Company. But it's we're operating here out of Chipsa right now.
Chipsa.
Yeah.
And the focus of the CPI is mainly athletes, combat athletes. Is that accurate?
Currently, so I think, next year, 2023, it'll be a little bit different because, like, right now we're doing joints and those type of things, but we're building an awesome interventional radiology suite on the first floor that should be done, hopefully will be done by the end of the year. That's some of the build out that you're starting to see with the everything up. But, we'll have, we just bought a really great angiography, so we can inject stem cells in hearts and livers, in pancreas injections and those type of things, and really getting, like, for instance, heart disease is the number one cause of death over cancer. So the idea would be to inject the heart with stem cells and hopefully regenerate that tissue that might have died. Not to the point that, for instance, you're curing heart disease, because there have been actually some reasonably good studies on this, the injections into the heart. But you can sometimes take an injection fraction and take it from 20% to, let's say, 35%, and then it's the difference between people not being able to stand up or walk to the car and being able to go to the grocery store. And so that's what we're looking at with that. And then when we do the induced pluripotent stem cells, which will be under clinical trial, making cardiomyocytes, so making beating heart cells, making liver cells, making all those different type of cells, and doing those trials fast. So it takes right now about 5 years to get a trial done in the U.S. phase 1, but we'll be able to do that in 12 months.
In Mexico.
Yep. So we'll be able to get it done fast and really translate that research into something that's meaningful for the world.
Now, for Mexico, are they just very supportive of the research you guys are doing and expediting things?
Yeah, so we have our licensing we have our cellular licensing, so we're able to do those type of treatments in Mexico. So they've been, they were one of the first to really embrace the cellular therapies, and there's been a lot of great research out of Mexico. Like, dendritic cells have been done since probably 2000 at Chipsa. The first dendritic cell vaccine that was approved in America was 2010 with Provenge. So Chipsa was doing it 10 years before that. Those doctors won a Nobel Prize in 2011. So, there's a lot of things, especially if you get to the higher level science, that can be done here and translated fast. And that's what we're about to do. We're about to build a world-class genomics lab. We're building, it's going to have proteomics, bioinformatics. We're going to be bringing, this is going to be like a translational haven for just translating this high-level medicine fast, so we can make these discoveries, we can get them to humans, we can save people's lives, we can extend their lives, and make a difference.
So there's got to be a stigma with stem cells in the United States. I think a very back stigma of when people think STEM, they think fetuses, which is wildly inaccurate for stem cells these days. Walk me through the difference between stem cells you find in the United States versus what you would find here in Mexico.
Yeah. So you have, like, we have a mesenchymal stem cell. It comes from the umbilical cord lining. So full birth, umbilical cord that's donated after birth. And then, we can expand them in Mexico. In the United States, you're not allowed to expand those. So let's say you're getting 10 million stem cells. You may only be getting 1 to 3% of the 10 million. And there's other growth factors and good things in there, but it's not what we're not expand. They're not able to expand them and give you all 10 million stem cells. That's number one. As far as the debate on the fetuses, that came from embryonic stem cells.
Yes.
And those are what's called pluripotent stem cells. So, which has its controversy. But that's not at all what we're doing. But we are going to make induced pluripotent stem cells, and that is taking an umbilical cord lining and making it more primitive to where it's a pluripotent stem cell, adding proteins and those type of things to where you're able to make those other cells. So it's taking away the debate of the abortion, those type of things.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that yet, but that's where the debate was over the embryonic stem cells. And I think that where the science is now, we can not have that part of the debate anymore.
Yeah. Walk me through the benefits of stem cells for the listeners, and then I want to also, I know usually it's a 5-day protocol here at CPI.
Sure.
If that's accurate. Walk me through the benefits, sort of maybe past clients you've seen and the results.
How about I tell my story?
Yeah,
so,
love it, dude.
Yeah, so basically I broke my back in 2000. Well, actually, I probably broke it long before. I was training actually with Rafael Lovato, who you met here down in Brazil. Broke my ribs. Hurt so bad from my ribs when I went to the hospital in Brazil. Didn't speak enough Portuguese at that time, but I could point at my ribs and say, it hurt right here. Got x-rays. Had 2 ribs that were floating and 2 that were fractured. What I didn't know at the time is that I had fractured 3 of my vertebrae because I never had my vertebrae. And then as time went on, I just kept training and everything. And the final straw was I was actually in China, 2009, running down an escalator, and I felt a massive pop in my back. One of my discs had ruptured, S1L5. Got back to the U.S., tried everything I could figure out not to have surgery, but basically I had a piece of the disc that was lodged in my spinal cord that had to be taken off, and so I needed some disectomies. I did the surgery, couldn't really walk for 8 months, got this beautiful gray hair for the first time, got fat for the first time in my life, and took me about 2 years before I get back on the mat and train. And I lost a lot of core strength, a lot from that. 3 years after that, I was back to just as bad as I was pre-surgery, and over time it just kept getting worse and worse. So when I found out there was a chance I could do stem cells in my back here, I had 3 of my discs injected. I could feel the pressure come off when in the procedure of getting the stem cells injected. I felt like I got taller, and I felt pressure coming off my nerves. Still a painful procedure, but within 3 or 4 days, I was without nerve pain for the first time in 12 years in my life. A couple weeks as the stiffness wore off, I just kept getting better and better. I had an MRI before I had it done. I had an MRI done at month 3, and then I got an MRI done right about the 12-month mark. And I'm happy to share the MRIs with anybody that wants to see them. I know I'm just one case, but the regrowth of the discs in my back that you see on the MRI, our interventional radiologist was like, if I looked at your MRI number 1 pre to 12 months, he's like, I never would have believed it's the same person. He's like, if I didn't know you personally, there's no way you could convince me, because I had that much healing in the discs in my back. And so, I mean, for me, I was starting to think I was going to be crippled. I had a lot of sciatic pain. Sometimes my back would give out. Sometimes my calf would twitch so much it would cramp up, and my toes would be pointed, locked. And it was terrible, but now I'm great. Ed and I go out kiteboarding. I got a new electric mountain bike. I'm out riding that thing around, and I still got to be a little bit careful. I did have 5 really bad discs, so I went in a second time and injected 2 of the same discs and the one above it. And one of the great things about our stem cells is that they are hypoxic, meaning that they need a lot less oxygen to live. Not a lot of blood flow inside of a disc, right? So, and what I spent with insurance on back surgery and physical therapy, was more than it would have cost to get a stem cell treatment here. So,
and at the time, you got the stem cells at this clinic, or
I was the first person to get there. Well, we can't. I gotta do it on me first before I'm gonna do it on anybody else. So I got that done. I've had my knee done as well, and nothing works for everybody, right? But my experience is that we're getting really great results for people. People who are athletes tend to have better results. Maybe they know their body better. Maybe they understand it a little bit better, take care of it a little bit better. But
well, it seems like you guys have a massive following within the MMA world. as well as wrestling and pro athletes. I mean, have you guys? I know you're collecting a lot of data, and you've built a panel of just all-stars. From the data you're seeing, what's sort of the success rate, or is that sort of a loaded question?
Well, next year we're going to publish, and we'll be able to tell that. And I say that because, we see so many cool cases, but I don't want to say the wrong number.
Yeah.
So we're allowing people to come back at month 3 for free 30 million stem cells, and we pay for their MRIs because we're going to be collecting that data, and then we're going to publish. But I mean, it's going to be more cases than not that we're seeing people heal. The discs are really incredible. I think in the last year, I know of one person. One of our friends didn't get a response on his disc, but can you think of another person? No. So that's one out of I don't know how many. They didn't get a response. But once we see the MRIs, we can say, okay, they had a 25% reduction. They had a complete, like his was completely, looks normal now. And, so whenever we get all that data and we can put it all together, then we'll have it. I don't mean to be like, I don't know, but I really don't know.
I totally understand. How long have you guys been collecting the data?
Intensely the last 3 months.
Last 3 months.
Yes. But before that, the hardest part was getting people to come back for their MRIs. So they're feeling good,
Yeah,
but we
when
don't
people
have
feel great, they don't want to come back. So we got to give them an ethical bribe to come back. I'm going to give you something for free, more free stem cells that fixed you, because we want, the data for us is like winning the fight in martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Like the only way you prove that you're doing it is to prove that you're doing it. Well, we need the data, the MRIs and everything to do it. Just having somebody say, hey, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, in terms of like a business sort of principle, your repeatability of clients coming back is pretty damn high.
I mean, I think we do a great job. You know what I mean? Like our staff is amazing here. Our product is amazing. I think we have a package that we've put together. Some people call it biohacking. Since we have our own compounding pharmacy here, we're making everything in-house. We have our own cellular lab. We're making everything in-house. We have probably the biggest hyperbaric chamber that out of anywhere. So I think, the package that you're doing was really for us post-COVID. We went into all of our scientific advisors and our doctors. We were burnt, you know what I mean, from working the whole time. And I was just like, look, I need to feel great again. If you were me and you had a week at Chipsa, what would you do? And they put together that whole protocol that you're doing now with the IV ozone, Myers cocktail, hyperbaric oxygen, NAD, stem cells, pulse electromagnetic field, infrared therapy, all in a 1 week package. And that's how it started, was, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I started telling my friends about it and stuff, and people were like, I want to come do it too.
Well, and let's talk through that, because I've had PRP done in the United States. PRP for platelet-rich plasma. And it's come in, they pull your blood, they spin it, and then they put it into whatever joint you're doing. But you guys have a 5-day protocol. Do you mind if we cover that? Just to show just the intensity of what you guys are doing.
Sure.
So day one was a lot of administrative stuff, blood tests, things along those lines. But you hit us with a Myers cocktail, the ozone IV, the NAD plus, which talk to the listeners about NAD plus, because you guys do that in-house. And I know you have to do it in-house because the shelf life of NAD plus is pretty short.
Yep.
And you guys are big on NAD plus, which I know has been an up and coming. I don't want to say drug. What's the correct term?
Yeah, it's a therapeutic.
Therapeutic drug.
Yeah.
What is it about NAD plus that you guys love so much, and you're doing that pretty much every day of the 5 days?
It's like rocket fuel for the mitochondria, So it's just increasing this ATP and the energy in the cells. It's shown to reset the circadian rhythm in a lot of people. Helps with sleep a lot. Helps with brain fog. Some of our friends with like COVID long haulers, they're taking NAD plus and seeing good results. Just DNA repair as well.
Yes.
So I mean, there's a lot of great things about NAD plus. We like it fresh. So what other places might do, they might it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 month old. We cut ours off right at 3. Nobody's getting anything older, and most of it is within the first 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're making it fresh constantly, and I can actually tell a difference.
Yeah.
With
I was going to
fresh.
ask you, have you
it.
done it somewhere else?
So I did.
Yeah,
But
did you
I
notice-
definitely felt I had to ask to slow the drip. That's just because
Yeah.
I'm a big ass wuss.
No, I don't think so, because we have a lot of people that come down here do NAD other places. I got one guy comes back every 3 months just for that.
Yeah.
And they all say the same, like, oh, this freshness, it's different. It's different. You know?
Are you guys doing personally? Are you doing that on a weekly basis?
Yeah, he does it more than I do it every other week. You know?
Every other week.
I do it every
As
week.
soon as my eyes start hurting, I do NAD and my eyes like get better. It's I wish it lasted a little longer, but it really does. It helps my eye. I'm staring at computers all day long, and man, it helps. And I can see how clear a light your eyes
Yeah.
are right now. Did you notice that?
And you said it the other day.
Yeah.
You know what I've been really impressed of the 5 days. It's almost like it's a concierge service. Your staff has been awesome. I know Wednesday, today's Thursday. Wednesday was the injection day. I had both my knees done, my right hip, both my shoulders. Your staff was awesome. The process was not as painful as I thought. It was actually pretty smooth. Last night was a little rough, but that's to be expected with the pressure in the joints. But you guys do a great job with the pain management, and so it's been less than 24 hours, and the only thing I can feel is the stiffness. But going back to the PRP clinics I went to, they didn't do the NAD plus. You guys also have the hyperbaric chamber. You got the PEMF and then the sauna. Explain why you add those 3 protocols to your stem cell therapy and keep people here for 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking for things that are synergistic with the stem cells. So there's studies that show that hyperbaric oxygen increases stem cells by up to 400%, PEMF up to 200%. So those are increasing the stem cells that you produce, and so using things that work synergistically, oxygen into the bloodstream. The hyperbaric oxygen. So you're breathing in pure oxygen, and then it's pressurizing. So it's pushing oxygen to parts of your body that might not get as much per se. So, a lot of injuries don't have a lot of oxygen going to it. So, when you put stem cells in there, especially our stem cells that actually can survive in that low oxygen environment, but then you add oxygen and give it more oxygen, it's helpful for those stem cells to do what we want them to do. So, everything that we have is in place to potentiate, the other things. And, even without stem cells, all of those treatments for a week, I mean, you're going to feel good.
Yeah.
You're going to, it's healthy. It feels great to do those things. And Scotty and I we both have ozone generators next to our bed. He's got 2 or 3 red lights in his room. I've got a 5.5 foot by 3 foot panel next to my bed. And we use a lot of these things in our day-to-day life, just because it makes us feel so good, and it's overall healthy.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at the list of athletes and the board back here. I mean, what's the most common feedback you get from them, that you're extending the longevity of their careers in the sport?
Yeah, definitely. And just, athletes that come down here, they say that they immediately get a boost up in their cardio, in their gas, from the stem cells going to their lungs.
Yeah.
Quicker recovery times. Most of those guys up on their board are such high-level athletes, they don't take the recommended amount of time to see the best results for healing old injuries. They're usually coming down here to avoid surgery, or they got a big, just micro tears and things like that. And there's a reason why they all keep coming back, like if it wasn't working, they wouldn't keep coming. We just have Rafael Lovato Jr. on his 4th trip down here. We have a lot of guys that come down
that was
here.
a big dude. I didn't realize he was that big.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. Do any of the athletes just come for preventative maintenance? Or have you not seen that yet?
trying to think.
I mean, we have had guys that have come down like before they have like a big event that
For the
kind of like
stem cell IV.
Rafael's here right
Yeah.
now. He's only doing IV instead of his joints.
Yeah.
He's fighting in ADCC, the largest grappling event in the world, coming up end of September, and he just wants to be able to work out a little harder, heal stuff up a little bit quicker. And yeah, we have people that come down just for that too. Yeah.
And I know, Scott, you and I had talked about you coming from the veteran community with all the brain trauma, that you guys are actually starting to go down the path of of, was it spinal stem to potentially
Yeah,
heal the
we
brain?
actually already treated some people with the interthecal injections. Yeah, we do
kidding.
that here. Yeah, we got one coming next week for somebody that is an older person who wants it for preventative. But yeah, we done that.
Plus, you combine that with the HBOT training and
And the NAD and everything else. Yeah.
With collecting the data, is there a long game approach here? I mean, are you guys eventually trying to, convince the United States to change certain policies, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's not convince. We take our data and we submit it to the FDA. So we have our U.S. biotech company.
Yeah.
So we have our therapeutics. We have a lot of innovations in what we do. Our partner Francisco Silva, lots of innovations, and so the goal is to get this through the FDA process. So that's really that's the big goal.
That's got to be frustrating in a way. And I'm not putting words in your mouth saying the FDA is slow. It's just I'm assuming that could be a decade-long fight before maybe approvals are in place.
I think it could be. I think that next year when we show how good we can collect the data and we do a great job, which we should have to prove it.
Yes.
I think that some of our drugs will get breakthrough status, and I think that we can. We know some people in the FDA. They're good people, and I think that we just got to show that we can do what we say we're going to do, and we're going to do that. And I'm optimistic about it. Really, I'm very optimistic about it. That a lot of the people that I met in the community, from people in the FDA to NIH, et cetera, have been really good people. They're open-minded. They want people to do things right, but in some ways they get a bad rap. And I'm looking forward to working with them, quite frankly.
That's awesome. What would you say to I'm an average citizen now, somebody who is maybe dealing with joint pain, a shoulder pain, knee pain. What would you say to them rather than just sort of rushing in? Because it seems like you go to a doctor and the doctor's response is going to be, let's open you up. And
Sure.
I mean, would you tell them to give this a
I wish
shot
I had
first?
stem cells before I did
Yeah.
my back surgery, for sure. As long as it's not a complete tear, then what have you got to lose? I mean, surgery is so traumatic. It's so traumatic. This is a couple little needles into your joint. You're going to see in 2 days, you're not going to feel like anything was done to you. I literally lay flat on my back for 8 months post back surgery. I got a giant scar this big on my back, and it was, he always said that was like the turning point. You know what I mean? Like in my life, it was pre-surgery, post back surgery. Everything changed.
He went gray like a month after his surgery. He started getting gray hair. It was the strangest thing. It was like that much stress on
my body. It was
Well,
just
hey,
rough.
some chicks dig gray hair. I've got a little patch right here. My wife thinks it's hot.
There you go.
So maybe you can help me out there. Talk to me about the sort of post stem sort of rehabilitation, because ultimately you want to limit working out for about 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, I think you any new inflammation you cause is going to take away from
the localization of the
right. Exactly. So, and just not drinking alcohol. The longer you can go without drinking alcohol, the better. Don't pout that much. Can't be that bad.
I'll cut back on my mimosas and whiskey. So 8 weeks, you take it slow. A lot of flexibility, mobility training, and that usually results in the best outcomes.
Yeah,
No heavy lifting.
About at least a month, I would say. No heavy lifting and it also depends what you're treating.
Yeah.
So like when you're doing a back, you don't want to lift anything over your head that's going to cause pressure on the discs. You don't want to squirt any stem cells out. You don't want to, cause any of that. You want there to be as much healing as possible. I did physical therapy, although irregularly. I went to a physical therapist just working here at the hospital. I didn't have a lot of time, and that made a big difference. So we always suggest, do light physical therapy with it too. Anything you would add to that?
No, it's just I've seen people that, especially with the back injuries, they'll get their disc injected, and a couple weeks in they're working out, and they'll be my friend like, hey, I'll message them like, hey, why are you in the gym right now? And sometimes it'll take a little longer for them to get the effect, but it's just really take it easy. Take it easy once you get these. You're paying good money.
Yes.
Might as well get the the
full
full
benefit.
possible effect.
Yeah.
And so they give the doctors give a sheet when you leave, like specifically week 1, week 2, all the way to I think week 6 or 8. And I would stick with what that sheet says for whatever you had done, and really stay focused on it.
Well, a lot of your
The
clients
biggest
are high
problem is
performers.
people feel great.
Yeah.
You feel
Yes.
so
Yep.
good, but you haven't had the full recovery,
Yeah.
Yet, and you want to go back to doing everything because you do feel so good. But it takes, it takes time for stuff to grow back.
Well, fellas, I can't thank you enough for having me out here and actually going through the treatment. I mean, dude, I could think of hundreds of my brothers within the special operations community that need to come out here, just given the injuries, which are very synonymous with UFC fighters and stuff like that. I mean, it would pay dividends for them. What is the best way for people to, one, find you, and then two, start the process of talking to your reps about coordinating a trip out here?
Well, first of all, thank you and all of your brothers for your service. We do have a service discount. Both of us come from families that have military. And, the easiest way is either, on Instagram, we're CPI Stem Cells. The website is cellularperformanceinstitute.com. There's just click a button. We offer a free doctor call. It's best if you have MRIs and stuff like that so the doctor can look at them, but not necessary. I can usually get you an MRI cheaper down here than your deductible is in the United States.
I was going to say, yeah.
And we get the results back, if not same day, then within 24 hours. So if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world, but it definitely helps. But you will be getting one when you get down here. And the doctors want to see exactly what's going on the day or two before they do the injections to make sure you get the best results possible.
What he said. No, that's, exactly. That's really, it's, finding the website, looking at the testimonials from people that have done it, talking to other people that have actually done it, doing your own research, looking at the treatments that we do. There's a big list, and then look at the science behind it. I mean, you can type in, NAD plus and for brain conditions, or hyperbaric oxygen for wound healing, or all of these things, and really see how they work synergistically together, and make your own decision. If it's not us, we want everybody to get healthy. It might not be us. It might be something else. It's just like make that step to actually make a positive difference in your health.
Well, guys, definitely you guys are innovators. You're helping people with their quality of life and longevity. So, again, thank you. And for all the listeners, we will post all the information on the Cellular Performance Institute. Give it a look. Talk to one of the doctors. Thanks for joining us. This is the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior. I'm your host, Mike Sarraille. Until next time.